Thanks for downloading Pave the Way Podcast. On this show, your host, Greg Helbeck, interviews the top minds in real estate, business, and personal development to help you crack the code so you can grow your business and, more importantly, grow your life. Get ready for another game-changing episode. If you want to learn how to master your day and become a productivity monster, download Greg's free guide on daily personal productivity for free at www.pavetheday.com. That's Pave the Day, spelled DAY.com. Now it's time for today's episode. Enjoy.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. The gentleman I'm interviewing right now does not need an introduction. Brent Daniels, absolute TTP master. This guy is all over the internet. If you haven't heard of him yet, you're probably living under a rock. And I met Brent through one of the masterminds we're a part of called the Multipliers, which is an absolute all-killer, no-filler group. And we were chopping it up in Mexico a couple months ago. So figured he'd be a great interview for the show. And Brent, man, thanks so much for hopping on today.
Thank you, Greg. Your show is fantastic. It's an honor to be on here and speak to your audience. I know that it's all really, really, really proactive people that are looking to, get into real estate as a business, as a, being a real estate entrepreneur, and just learning that finding discounted properties, right, Greg, that is what we do. That's the start 100%. Of any real estate journey, is finding the discounted property. So we're going to be talking about that and whatever else Greg has planned for us here. It's going to be a lot of fun. So I'm excited to go.
Absolutely. Before we get started, I was actually, I was cooking breakfast this morning, and you and Vidalis were going live, and you said something that is absolute gold, and I want to repeat it. It's, you're a deal finder, not a deal creator, and I see so many investors trying to turn a turd into a non-turd, and you can't really do that. So it's all about finding those deals, which is the key here. So we'll get into that on the show today. So before we get into that, Brent, how did you get into REI? How did you get into the REI industry, man? What's your background like?
I love it. So I'm going to take this all the way back to starting out in high school, right? Like freshman year, my parents sit me down. They go, listen, you can, as you're getting older here, you can either play sports or you can get a job. And I was like, okay, great. I'll play sports. Well, I was already playing sports, but like adding more sports to it. So I was like, great, I'll do that. So just to let everybody know, I've never had a traditional job, right? Because in college, I think my parents' whole thought was, well, if he can do well in sports, he can get a scholarship and he can go to college and do that whole thing. And that'll be kind of like the path of his life. And so went to college. Best friend handed me Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I read that. My mushy brain exploded. I was like, oh my gosh, this is it. I can't believe it. You don't have to just, go from rows of desks in school to rows of tables in college to cubicles as a career, right? You could get out of that. You could break out of that. You could have some freedom. And that was called being an entrepreneur, being a business owner. And in that book, obviously, it talks about the advantages of being a real estate entrepreneur. And from that, I was like, okay, this is it. I got my real estate license in college with the intention of being an investor, but didn't know the language, didn't know where to start, didn't know how to find discounted properties, had never talked to a property owner about their house before. Like everything was new and fresh. And so I feel that all the time. And that's why, you and I do what we do with these shows and with the content, is because we want to get rid of the mystery that is being a real estate entrepreneur. So I just started there and just started doing traditional real estate agent things, and then eventually found wholesaling in 2013, and that changed everything. I mean, that just changed absolutely everything. And then that's when I discovered that if you can find the deal, if you know how to source real estate opportunities, you will be wealthy. You will be, you will have a freedom of schedule. You will be absolutely unstoppable and be able to really change the dynamic of your family and your family's life and everything, if you just commit to being able to find discounted properties.
100% agree with that. And that is in its simplest form. That's what we're doing. Like, that's what you're doing as a real estate investor. Everyone's like, oh, I'm a wholesaler, I'm a rehabber, I own rental properties, and I got all that stuff. But at the end of the day, All those deals, Brent, started with marketing directly to sellers, and it came from a good freaking deal. And then the rest took care of itself. You know,
Well,
I
listen,
rentals.
there's three ways to get deals, right, Greg? I mean, you either buy them through marketing, right?
Yep.
You pay for those people to call you.
Yep.
You wait for them by referrals. You get referrals from your friends and family and people in the industry and other investors that know that you're the guy or gal in your market that they bring deals to, or you go out and you earn them. And that's prospecting, right? That's either picking up the phone and calling people or knocking on doors. So it just depends on which way you want to go with it and how much money you want to keep in your business. But that's the three ways to find discounted properties. You buy them, you wait for them, or you earn it. It just depends
100%.
on what your personality is and what you want to do.
It's that simple at the end of the day. So you're the absolute master at cold calling. You got the TTP shirt, you got the TTP TV in the background. So you are the black belt. I would call you the Tom Brady of cold calling, and you heard that for the first time here. So I think a lot of investors, Brent, they're they might not get started with a bunch of money in the bank, and they have to trade a lot of time for deals. So when it comes to cold calling, I'm a big 80-20 fan. I love those books, and I'm a big, hack kind of person. So what's the 20% when it comes to making cold calling work? Like, how does someone just take cold calling and do the really essential things to get the highest chance of consistent results?
Here's the biggest thing, Greg.
Love it.
Time again. You have to, at some point, flip the switch in your brain and get energized for making calls as opposed to being drained. Right? We talk about time management, and then we go real deep and we talk about priority management, but what rarely gets talked about is energy management, which is really important, because I don't care if you have all day long, but you have no energy, nothing's going to happen, right? You could have this set up and it's the number one priority. You got nothing else going on. You got no kids, you got no wife, you got no husband, you got nothing. And you could do this all day long. If you don't have energy, you got nothing.
You're done.
So if you can get to the point where you realize that 6 to 10% of the real estate market nationwide, in every market, 6 to 10% are in distress of some kind, whether financial or emotional or situational distress. If you realize that and you put it in your brain that you are going out to serve those people, to have a conversation with those people and help them to get out of their stress that their property is putting them under, you are actually, all of a sudden you get energized by it. It's almost like it's like your mission. You know what I mean? All of a sudden you're like, there are people that aren't going to help themselves out there. If I step into their life will be unbelievably better by me just having a conversation with them and solving the problems that they're having with their properties. When you go with that, as opposed to, well, if I make enough calls, I'm going to make some money and then I can buy cool stuff. That only lasts. That's passion, right? That's not purpose. The passion is a flash in the pan. The purpose of going out and serving the people in your community that won't serve themselves, that you switch that over, you're unstoppable, because then if you're getting energy, you're going to be consistent. You're going to be enthusiastic. You are going to really, 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 really care about the people that you're talking to. And all of a sudden your life changes forever because you get these unbelievable opportunities.
Dude, that is absolute gold. And I'm not just saying that because you're on my show, my buddies. I'm like, that is so practical and something that everyone needs to rewind and listen to, because that is where I see so many people get smoked trying to cold call. They're just, their energy. They don't have the energy. And you said something that's and I want to drive that point on with a story from me personally. We did a deal. This is like years ago now, but it was a cold call. Long story short, she did not know how to help herself. And it was not a lay down. It was like a typical New York, California seller, savvy. And we ultimately changed her life, because if she didn't freaking, go forward with us, she would have lost the house with like hundreds of thousands of dollars of equity. And I remember a couple of years ago, I was like still kind of breaking through, and I'm like, you know what? I really served someone there. And if it wasn't for us, she would have been screwed. And that is, you just said that there. And like, you have to embrace that. You're there to serve people, solve problems, add value, and then the money will come, the equity will come, because you're ultimately solving the problem. And I think that's such a big paradigm shift for everyone to really embrace, because it's true.
Well, and everybody thinks about the cause. They don't think about the effect. The cause is, oh, I'm going to get rejected. The cause is, oh, I'm making cold calls. What am I, like a communications person now, like
telemarketer.
That is,
yeah.
That's a geez, that was hard to get out. Telemarketer now, like what am I going to tell my family and friends that I just sit in my living room and make calls to people? That's so embarrassing. Like all of these causes, all this hallucinations that go on in our head. We don't think of the effect. We don't think of the effect of the people that we can serve out there. And we don't think of the effect of the connections we can make, either if we're taking these properties down for traditional rental or a flip, or if we're going to wholesale them with cash buyers that have the funds, that have the experience, that we can squad up with and connect with and build a relationship with. And then all of a sudden we've got the best mentors in our area. And now we're off and running. Now we're surrounding ourselves with people that have a passion for real estate and have that fire in their belly to do something amazing. And let's be honest, Greg, I mean, I'll still go to family barbecues or reunions pre-COVID or whatever. And my family, nobody does real estate. Nobody knows what the hell I'm talking about. Nobody knows what wholesaling is. Nobody knows any of these things. They just don't speak the language. So I think it's really, really critical to be around people that speak the language, that understand what you're doing, because they're going through it themselves. And you get that opportunity to be around those people if you are finding deals, if you are out there serving the community. It all goes hand in glove into what we can do in this business. And then that's just the start. Like you mentioned, I had Jared Vidalis on 6 years ago. He had just started out. He was on my live show this morning.
Yeah.
He had just started out. Now he's got over $16 million in rentals. He's made $16 million in assignment fees, and he's building a $50 million townhouse community that he will refi out. That'll be worth $65 million in 6 years. Greg, he started with talking to like a rundown house down the street from his house. And that's how he started his real estate life and career. So, I mean, it's the most incredible business that we are fortunate to be in.
100%, dude. And you got to start somewhere. And like I said, that is a legit reality for people. I think that's the thing. New investors, they're so stuck with where they're at. They don't have that vision for where they really could be short 6 years isn't that long, man. You could do a lot in 6 years. It's better than the 30-year pension plan that most people preach. All that kind of crap out there.
Old. He's
31 years old. He's only 31. Holy
He's 31 years old with all these things. I mean, give him another 30 years. He'll own this whole
buying
state.
the freaking Phoenix Coyotes or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, it's just the sky's the limit with this business. That's why I scream it for you. You could tell I have a lot of energy for this. I have a lot of authentic enthusiasm for this business, because I've seen it change people's lives unbelievably. I mean, you go out and you get your first deal, and then all of a sudden the faith that you had that you could do something that wasn't the same as everybody else or what people's expectations were of you. You had that faith that you could do it. And once you cross that bridge to where it's a fact, where you actually put money in your account that you earned from real estate. I mean, that is so exciting. And the fact that you can do that for your career or for your business. I mean, it's just, I encourage everybody. I think it's the best. I think it's the most fun. And I think that if you really focus on the effects that you can have in your community, you can really do something special.
100% agree with you, man. And it's, I remember I had that shift when I got started, I was 20, I'm 25, almost 26 now. So I've been doing, this is the only thing I've ever done in my life. I'm kind of like you. I never had a regular job besides being a lifeguard in high school and stuff and, getting kicked out of pools and whatnot. But I remember my parents thought I was out of my mind. 20-year-old kid doesn't know his ass from his elbow. And next thing you know, I walk home with a $6,000 check from a wholesale deal. And they go, "Are you dealing drugs?" And I said, "No." "Do I look like I'm dealing drugs?" And I'm like, "No." And then I walk back with a $15,000 check, $20,000 check, move to La Jolla, California, and then it's like, oh, now what, So, and not I love my parents, but they thought, I give them, I understand why they were concerned about me, but now the business changes your life. And next thing you know, you got a podcast and you can help a lot of people. So for the listeners listening right now, trust me, give this business real time and real effort, and it will reward you. There's no way you can't succeed if you do the right things consistently. So Brent, something that I really got from you, this is a couple of years ago, and I use this in our business almost every day with my assistant, is the 4 pillars of motivation. Because I think this is where I see another issue with some people is they're trying to sell steak to vegans. They're trying to be the best closer when they're talking to an unqualified lead. And you articulate the 4 pillars better than anyone I've ever heard of. And it just makes so much sense. So I'll give the mic over to you here. This is your bread and butter. And this is super tactical and applicable for people listening.
So let me pull back for 1 second. In real estate investing, there's 3 parts to it. Okay. The first part is lead generation. The second part is conversion. That's when you're converting those leads into a signed opportunity, something that you can do something with. And then the third part is exit strategy. Okay.
Yeah.
So we talked about, we already talked about lead generation. The second part, which is conversion, the first part of conversion is your pre-qualifying. Okay. The 4 pillars of pre-qualifying, and this is for anything. This is fix and flips. This is rentals. This is anytime that you're talking to a wholesale. This is anytime that you're talking to a property owner, you're trying to get 4 things. Okay. You're trying to get the condition of the property, their timeline to sell, their motivation to sell, and their price. Okay. 100%. Every conversation you have, all that rapport building, all that great tone of voice, that listening with, active listening that you're doing, all of those things come down to those 4 pillars. Right. And I put them in order like that, Greg, because in my experience, when you are talking to a property owner, before they're going to get into like their emotions, typically in what's going on with this property, they're going to tell you about the condition. They're fine telling you about the condition. It needs this, it needs that, it needs this, and this hasn't been updated. They're fine with that. And the longer you keep them on the phone, the more they're going to open up. They're going to blossom like a flower. Okay. The second part is asking their timeline. When do you want your money? Typically, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, we close in 14 to 30 days. Does that work for you if we close in 14 to 30 days from right now? Yes, no, maybe, whatever else. Yeah. So now you've got the condition of the property, you've got their timeline. And I'm telling you this, when you get the condition and the timeline, most of the time, they're going to give you their motivation. Okay. It's either going to be, they're tired of renting it. Somebody beat up the property. They can't take care of the property anymore. They can't make their payments because of whatever situation. All these things come up to the motivation. And the toughest one is to pull out the price from them. You get all 4 of those though. You've got a pre-qualified seller there. Those are the people that you want to go on the appointments with. Don't just go on an appointment with somebody that you haven't pre-qualified because they're nice to you on the phone, right? You want to make sure that you're a professional, just like a doctor would pre-qualify you before they diagnose you with anything. Or if you sit down with an attorney, they ask you a bunch of questions about things. It's to pre-qualify so they know how to diagnose what's going on. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to see, is this somebody that would do business with me? That's what you're trying to diagnose. Does this person have the potential to do business with me? So every conversation, every question you're asking, everything that's going on goes to that point.
100%. And that is so true because I see so many wannabe salespeople. This isn't any industry, quite frankly, like you said. I mean, it could be anything. They're spending all day talking to unqualified prospects, right? And they don't have a way to systematize the qualification. I think the 4 pillars is the perfect way to do it.
Yep.
And it's funny you mentioned there's a lot of like this back and forth on negotiating, which is something I've studied and really like. It's one of my like things I really like to do. And some people are like, oh, you should never get this person's price. I'm like, BS. I've done deals, 6-figure deals, where literally they told me their price and I made sure they were serious and we made $100,000 on it.
100%.
So, it's like I didn't have to sell anything. I was like, okay, if you got your price, what are the next steps look like? And next thing you know, we own the house. So I am a believer that if you know the person's price, and this is negotiating anything, you're at a huge advantage versus trying to just spitball an offer out. Because then, you know what I mean? What are your thoughts on that? Because this is a huge thing I see online. I'm like, that's BS.
Yeah, I mean, it's huge. I mean, you want to pull out their price. Sometimes they won't. So you take a shot, across the bow to see where they're at. And what I like to do there is it's very simple. You look at, can, when you're talking to somebody on the phone and a lot of times if you're cold calling them, you're on a dialer. A lot of the dialers have a quick button, Greg, right? You push it, you go to Zillow and it pulls up the Zestimate. Yep. Well, I say, if you need to throw something out quick, if it's above 250,000, throw out 65% of whatever that Zestimate is. And if it's below 250, throw out 50%. And just say something to the fact of, you're not like totally giving them the price. You're saying, well, it looks like your neighbors that are in similar condition are selling for X amount. Is that what you were looking for? and then just wait and listen, right? Because you don't know the condition,
you don't know,
yet, or maybe they're pushing you for price or whatever else, or maybe you're just like, you know, these properties are similar to yours are selling for this. Is that what you would consider?
Dude, that's so gold. It's so gold. And it's such a good way to expedite results. Like, quick shout out to Taylor Berg, one of your students, and he's one of my good buddies. We're doing deals together. We were just at a house, and he got from cold calling, ironically. It was follow-up. And we're in the guy's house. I doubt the seller's listening, so I'm not scared to share this. But, you know, we built some rapport with the guy. We knew it was going to be a deal. Total needs a lot of work. And, you know, he wanted like $150 for it. And like, you know, that works, you know, it works. And we made sure that he liked us and trust us. And if I didn't know what he wanted first, I probably would have offered him like, I don't know, probably maybe more, maybe that price, but he made my job a lot easier. You know, we're able to really spend a lot of time building that relationship. So the 4 pillars are absolutely game changing for people, especially when they're going to get on the phone and start putting a lot of energy and effort into this. So another question I have for you.
I mean, you said it perfectly. The biggest deals that we've ever done in our business, in my business, is when they gave us the price first.
100
every time. That's why we asked. That's why you asked. That's why you want to get, you know, the way that we purchase properties is we buy them completely cash. There's no real estate agent fees. We pay all the closing costs. So there's not any ancillary little things that are going to affect the net. And the best part is we buy them completely as is. So you don't have to put another penny into this house. So for an offer like that, how much would you be looking to get? Right. What price are you looking to, right?
You frame it. You got
question to build it up. You're giving them benefit, so that they throw out something to you that you can, you know, hopefully 100%. It works.
That's such a nugget I want people to pause on, because I see a lot of newbies. They're like, my offer's whatever, or what's your offer? And like you said, their perception is not based around the value you're bringing. It's just around whatever, the Zestimate. They're in a logical decision-making state there. So that is super, super applicable. And one more quick story on that. I could talk about this for hours. I did a deal in San Diego. This was like maybe 5 months ago. And there was no quote unquote pain, but their price was a duplex in Spring Valley, which is a borderline area. They told me their price, locked it up and wholesaled it for $40,000. And like they were millionaires. They owned a bunch of real estate in the area. And it just shows to, like, if you have a good price, you can put a deal together without doing too much work, you know?
Oh, 100%. And you never know unless you ask. That's what I'm saying. Exactly. You don't have to ask all about everything in their whole entire life. You need to find those 4 pillars. You talk about those 4 pillars, and you can really, you know, be in a position to only be working with people that you have a shot with. You know what 100%. I mean? And I think that that's the biggest part. You know, you see a lot of, you know, the wheels are going fast, but you're not going anywhere because you're spending time with people that'll never do business with you.
100%.
You know, get rid of them. Just work with the people that'll do business with you. And you do that by pre-qualifying.
100%, man. I absolutely agree with you, man. So one thing I want to talk to you about before we, you know, start to wind the show down today is you do a really good job articulating how to really wholesale deals for top dollar, and really maximize the value on the asset that you're creating, which is the discounted deals. So what are some strategies and tactics that you do in your business to really make sure that you're not, I think Todd Toback coined this, a cash buyer employee or something. Right. I heard that one time and I thought it was funny and true. So what are you guys doing to avoid being a CBE?
Well, and I was for the first couple of years, you know, I was selling it to the same 3 to 5 people every single time because it was guaranteed. It was smooth. I was getting paid.
Comfortable.
It was really good, you know? Yeah. But I was averaging $12,000 a deal. Now, as of this recording, we average $42,000 a deal in Phoenix, Arizona.
That's
know, and the reason for that is the size of our cash buyer database. Not only that, but I think what a lot of people do is they look at the comps and they go, okay, well, this comp sold for this. This is as much as the ARV is going to be for this property and everything else. What people really don't look at is supply and demand. Okay. And the supply and demand really matters. And the reason it matters is because if you are under the lowest price thing that's on the market, you're going to sell your deal. And it doesn't make sense at all. It could be like 90% of ARV, you know, and you still need to put repairs into it. But if you're the lowest price in the area and there's not a lot of supply, you're going to be able to sell that. So that's how we get such big deals. One, we've added a tremendous amount of real estate agents to our list.
Yes.
And what's happening is because there's a shortage of properties and because of the competition so high, if they find something that's off market, they are telling clients right now, they're telling people, get set up with this hard money lender. They're going to help you buy this property cash, and then you can refinance after you move into the property. So essentially all of these traditional buyers are now cash buyers.
Yes.
So in these areas where the inventory is low, all of a sudden the buyer base is so high because that's what you have to do to compete in the market. So if you're in anywhere, if you're in California, if you're in Texas, Florida, crazy. Chicago, Seattle, Portland, there's just some incredible Idaho even. Some of these
Boise.
areas, it's just bananas. There's no inventory. So you can push your deals out for a lot more because people that are going to live in those properties are going to always pay the most.
100%, man. That's such a practical tip too. I see like you said, in these we did a wholesale deal in City Heights, which is a tough neighborhood in San Diego, 70,000 assignment because of the supply and demand. The ARV wasn't it was a 720 square foot Spanish style shack. I'm sure those are in Phoenix too. Sold it at a premium. And it was an auction. Literally, I took the buyers in once and everyone was just basically begging for it. And I didn't understand it because I never put another tip for the listeners. I see a lot of new wholesale. They put the ARV and all these things in the email. I'm like, dude, you put the price, the pictures, and the facts. That's it. 3 beds, whatever square foot. This is the price. Here's what I got. Here's how you can get it. Hit me up. And then that's how you sell deals at a premium. Not, oh, these are the repairs. This is the ARV. That I used to do that, and I would make 10 grand on these deals, and I'd go broke.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. That's having a big cash buyer database is the first side. The second side is just, lock up the deals, get the deals that you think that, if you're $5,000 or $10,000 or $15,000 away, depending on your area, if you're over 200,000 for the price, I would lock those up and I would put those out there. I think that you can make 100%. A tremendous amount from those deals as well. And, you just got to be consistent. You got to make sure that you are feeding your cash buyers so that they open up your stuff. So 100%. If you've got a good, consistent business where you're getting enough leads in and you're getting enough deals to put out there, then your cash buyers are going to pay more because they know what you're putting out. They see that they open the actual emails or text or whatever that you use to blast it out. And then the more eyeballs on it, the more they're going to bid it up, and the more they bid it up, the more you make.
100%, man. And they know that you're serious too, because you're sending them consistent stuff. It's funny. Taylor and I just wholesale the property. This was a week ago, and it's got a coffin inside the property. I don't know if anyone's in there or not, but I never seen it before. Taylor brought the deal, and I stuck it out to my list, and it's 20 something thousand or whatever, 17,000. And that was a deal that I told Taylor. I was actually on my way to the dentist out here, and I'm like, hey, we're going to lock the deal up. We're going to be upfront with the seller. And then we're going to have a 15-day clause. We're going to see if we can make some money on it. And that opportunity got us, 16, 17 grand. Yep. And it's a total dump, but there's supply and demand. There's no inventory there. So people are willing to buy the property at a premium. So that is an absolute golden tip, man. So as we get to the end of the interview, man, you got a lot of great stuff out there. So I want to make sure that people can follow you and plug into your stuff if they're not already plugged into your stuff. So if people wanted to check out, anything you have, I know you got the TTP program, you got a great YouTube channel, you're putting out content like a madman, you got that studio. So how do people connect with you and just learn more about you?
Yeah. I think the first thing for us to date a little bit is the YouTube channel. You know what I mean? The YouTube channel, we put out a lot of content there. From there, we open it up for a lot of different resources and downloads that people can get at talktopeople.com. And then the Wholesaling Inc. podcast is phenomenal. I'm on there on Tuesdays and Thursdays. That's phenomenal. Just sharing the stories of people that are out there that are being successful. And I think it really, really helps people out, especially if they're just getting started out, to realize that people starting out can be successful, and hearing the stories of that, it's inspiring. So those are the three: the YouTube channel, Brent Daniels Real Estate on YouTube. You can just type that in, talktopeople.com, a ton of free resources there. And then the Wholesaling Inc. podcast.
For sure. We'll make sure, I know you're listening to this. If we could throw those 3 links in the show notes, that'd be great. And Brent, man, thank you so much for coming on today, man. This was awesome. And I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Greg. It's been an honor. Everybody out there, just remember, just what this all comes down to is finding discounted properties. And the key to finding discounted properties is having consistent quality conversations with distressed property owners. I am telling you, if that's the only thing that really sticks, quality conversations with distressed property owners, you do that enough, you cannot lose. It's impossible. You will win and you will be successful as a real estate entrepreneur. And I want that for everybody that's listening.
I love it. And that's so true. So definitely listen to that again, rewind what Brent just said and articulate it and reflect on it a little bit. Because it's true. If you just get brilliant at the basics, you can't help but win. Love it.
Awesome.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Pave the Way Podcast. We hope you got value from today's episode. Make sure you download Greg's free guide on daily personal productivity for free at www.pavetheday.com. That's Pave the Day spelled DAY.com. If you have any questions or want to reach out, head over to www.pavethewaypodcast.com. We'll see you on the next episode.